So today we start testing the nerves of the upper limb. We will quickly revise the brachial plexus for you. 5, 6 and 7 and 8 and 1 are the roots that form the brachial plexus. 5, 6 forms the upper trunk, 7 the middle trunk, 8, 1 the lower trunk. The trunks divide into the anterior and posterior divisions. The posterior divisions are dotted. They form the posterior cord. The upper trunk continues with the lateral cord, and the lower trunk as the medial cord. The lateral cord continues as the musculocutaneous nerve. The medial cord as the ulnar nerve. The posterior cord as the radial nerve, and the median nerve arises from both the lateral and the medial cord. So 3 cords and 4 nerves. Now what are the branches? 3, 4, 5 roots, branches from the roots. 3, 4, 5 phrenic, 5 nerve to rhomboids or dorsal scapular, 5, 6, 7 nerve to serratus anterior. Then from the upper trunk, which is also called as the Erb's point, you have the suprascapular nerve and the nerve to subclavius. The suprascapular nerve passes through the suprascapular knot in the scapula and supplies the supraspinatus and infraspinatus. So this is the Erb's point. Then from the lateral and the medial cord, you have the lateral and the medial pectoral. From the medial cord, additionally, you have the medial cutaneous nerve of arm and forearm. Then from the posterior cord, you have an upper and lower subscapular and nerve to latissimus dorsi and the axillary nerve, which comes out from the quadrangular space here, goes round the surgical neck, supplies the teres minor and supplies the deltoid. So this is the brachial plexus revised for you, and now we'll tell you how to test for these nerves. For example, if the phrenic nerve is paralyzed in injuries of the cervical spine above C3 level, and all intercostals are paralyzed, and if both phrenic nerves are paralyzed, then the patient doesn't come to you in the hospital alive. Therefore, you don't see cervical spine injuries above C3 level. Then, nerve to rhomboids. The rhomboids would retract the scapula like this, brace back the shoulder. That's the rhomboids. Then nerve to serratus anterior. If you want to test the nerve to serratus anterior, you ask the person to push like this against the wall, and you would find that there is winging of the scapula. The scapula will become winged, will come out. So that is the nerve to serratus anterior. Then another very common site of lesion is the upper trunk. In the upper trunk, what happens that if there is a forceps delivery like this, the upper trunk gets stretched, and this paralysis is called as Erb's paralysis. The Erb's paralysis is characterized by the policeman tip taking position. Therefore, the abductors of the shoulder, the flexors of the elbow, and dorsiflexors of the wrist are paralyzed in the Erb's paralysis. The paralysis of the Erb's point can also lead to the paralysis of the suprascapular nerve. You see, then the supraspinatus and the infraspinatus are paralyzed. You see that the spine of the scapula becomes more prominent. There is wasting above and below it. And because the paralysis of the supraspinatus, the first 15 degree of abduction is lost, and therefore first the person shrugs his shoulders and then abducts the arm.
This is called as the reversal of the scapulohumeral rhythm, because in abduction, normally the humerus moves first and then the scapula. But in this, it's the scapula which shrugs first and then the deltoid takes over, and the person can abduct the arm up to 90 degrees.
Mobilize the hand in a paralysis and policeman's stop position. Then there is sometimes injury to the lower trunk also, and in the lower trunk you get paralysis of all four lumbricals. So lumbricals flex the MP joint and extend the PIP and DIP joint. Opposite of this you get the claw hand, and this is Klumpke's paralysis. You differentiate it from a combined median and ulnar paralysis because you can also get sensory loss in the medial cutaneous nerve of arm and forearm in case of Klumpke's paralysis here. Then the axillary nerve and the upper and lower subscapular, these are not tested, but we basically test the median, radial and ulnar in every case of upper limb injury. The simple test is the Indian dance position. Here there is extensor indicis, extensor digiti minimi, which is testing the radial nerve. The lumbrical positive position, MP flexion, PIP, DIP extension, which tests the ulnar nerve, and the opponents of the thumb, which is tested by the median nerve. So simple this quickly tests the median, ulnar and radial nerves. Of course, we can sort of make those, grow those nerves, and see what it supplies and what is lost. The musculocutaneous nerve pierces the coracobrachialis, not tested, lies between biceps and brachialis, flexor of the elbow will be lost, and then becomes the lateral cutaneous nerve of forearm here. So sensation here and flexors of elbow gone. The median nerve continues on the lateral side of the artery, then comes median to it, then passes between the head of pronator teres, under the flexor digitorum superficialis, between flexor pollicis longus and flexor digitorum profundus. It is normally paralyzed in chronic VIC between the flexor pollicis longus and flexor digitorum profundus here, and you test this median nerve by a test which is called as pen test. You put a pen here, and ask this patient to do this. This is pen test, and the high median nerve paralysis is tested by the pointing index test. Then there is sensory loss in 3.5 fingers. Then the ulnar nerve you test, a high ulnar nerve test you test because the flexor carpi ulnaris is wasted, palmar flexion ulnar deviation is lost, and flexor digitorum profundus 3 and 4 is paralyzed. So we'll tell you what happens with the paralysis of FDP 3-4, but the abductor digiti minimi, there is sensory loss in 1.5 fingers, sensory loss. The hypothenar eminence is wasted. The abduction of the little finger is lost, which is called as the Guava's test. Then the 3-4 lumbricals are paralyzed. So there is clawing of the third and the fourth finger. Now this clawing is occurring because there is hyperextension at the MP joint and flexion at the PIP and the DIP joints. Now this flexion at the DIP joint is being produced by the third, fourth flexor digitorum profundus. So if there is a high paralysis and the FDP 3-4 is paralyzed, flexor digitorum profundus 3-4 is paralyzed, then the claw hand would decrease because the flexion of the DIP joints would be lost. So normally higher the paralysis, lesser the deformity. Higher the paralysis, more the deformity. But here the higher paralysis is leading to less deformity. Therefore, this is called as ulnar paradox. Finally, the ulnar nerve ends in the adductor pollicis. So, if you hold a book, like this, the adductor pollicis can't contract and he uses the flexor pollicis longus. So this is called as the Froment's sign. Then the radial nerve, a high paralysis would lead to brachioradialis wasting, wrist drop. Wrist means extensor carpi, radialis, longus, brevis and ulnaris. Then MP joint drop. That means extensor indicis, digitorum, digiti minimi, and thumb drop. That means extensor pollicis, longus, brevis, and abductor pollicis. So this drop, MP joint drop and thumb drop. The radial nerve is sometimes paralyzed in lead poisoning. Sometimes an injection can paralyze it in the arm. Sometimes the fracture shaft of humerus reduction can entrap it, which we told you about, the Holstein-Lewis syndrome. And when you are trying to excise the head of the radius, the posterior interosseous part of the radial nerve is paralyzed. But then in the low radial nerve paralysis, the wrist is spared and you have only the MP joint, finger and the thumb drop. So this finishes the testing of all the nerves of the upper limb.